So welcome everybody to today's Midnight 6.3 training session. In today's topics, we'll be going over our estimating module, and we'll pay close attention for processes of how to create new estimates, how to copy existing estimates, how to attach estimated postage, create multiple quantity estimates, and how to convert them from an estimate into an order. We'll also take a look at our administrative menu and go over some key areas that accommodate the various drop-downs and controls in which you see within estimates. And finally, several reports that relate to estimates, the ones dedicated towards customer dispatch or internal notification and data handling. To start things off, I'll take a look at our admin menu. Within here, we'll see a lot of different menus which control different choices and which we see across Midnight's estimates. We can find many of them within the estimate/order list in here, starting with our disposition. In an estimate, you can note the reason that you may have lost an estimate, and in here we can create those reasons. This can be used as a reporting tool and can also simply be displayed on the estimate for future information when returning to an estimate. This list can be modified by creating a new instance here at the bottom, filling in your code, disposition, and then making sure whether or not it's active before clicking the Save button to commit the record to the available options table. Additionally, they can be modified by clicking the Edit button, in which you can make your changes to your disposition name, and click the Save button to update. Or you can deactivate or hide it by unchecking the checkbox under Active, and then clicking Save to commit that record as well. You can also utilize the top bar to do searches and sorts. As you modify the choices in this top row, it changes what available options you see. It can be a great way to take advantage of searching for the various data that you may have, be it active or inactive, or by name. You can also check the sort method by clicking the actual column name itself. And finally, if you click the X button, you can forcibly delete the disposition. Be aware, though, that if you do this, you need to make sure that you don't actually have any data or any estimates, in this case, set up to reference this disposition. Otherwise, you'll be deleting a piece of data that corresponds to your live information, and our system forbids that. You'll find this element of data modification, both creation, searching and sorting, and active status enabling or disabling, as well as deleting, present within pretty much all of our administration menus. So I'll go over it here, but definitely keep that in the back of your head for the other sessions that we talk through and the other modules that we go over in today's menu. Another administrative option that controls what we see in estimates will be the document types. This is present within both estimates and orders. And when you pull it up within an estimate, you can create an attachment and use this document type to modify the data type in which the attachment set up against the estimate is. We also have the estimate status, which of course allows you to update the estimate status. The status in here corresponds to whether or not the estimate has been open or newly created, won or converted to an order, or closed or lost, which are simply available options within here that we supply as a default. You can modify these, however, do be aware that if you change the open and won text, that some of our reports, which base themselves on those particular terms, may not pull data as you would expect, and that when copying an estimate that's already been marked as won, the status may not change correctly to open should you change the name to something else. Up next is the leftover instructions. This menu corresponds to, well, what to do with your leftovers. It assumes that if you have any materials or inventory left over for a customer, that if you fill this out, it will convey the information as to what to do with that material or inventory. You'll find a leftovers dropdown within estimates and orders, and when converting an estimate to an order, this element will proceed through. Additionally, I've gone over this in our customer record, and I'll go over it more closely in our pricing, but the tax codes and jurisdictions, as well as terms, all do correspond to the available taxes and terms that can be seen within estimates. Terms more closely relates to the payment terms in which the order or estimate needs to be paid for in full by, and correlates more closely with accounting software. So I'll go over this in more detail during our orders training session. Additionally, the tax codes and tax jurisdictions. Codes make up the smaller contents of a full jurisdiction, and the jurisdiction is what gets applied to an estimate or order in order to determine how much tax is actually calculated and applied to the job. Additionally, within our admin menu, we have a postage module. In here, we have quite a few choices which corresponds to postage rates. We keep this list updated based on USPS standard rates. There will be one going out on the 27th of January that we'll be providing an update to. This list will create new instances for the newly created postage rates and will deactivate all of the old ones. In addition, the old ones will still exist in our system with a Z provided in front of them to make them not appear near the top of any of your available postage rate lists. We find this important because when looking at old estimate records, you will still need to reference the postage that was quoted at the time of the estimate creation, rather than simply referencing the current value even for old estimates. There is a postage tab within the estimate that conveys information such as where the goods will be shipped to, sort and pre-sort info, as well as categories, and those can all be defined within these mail choices, as well as under the post office choice. And finally, we'll see more of these come up in our orders training, including details for the postage spoilage and postage status. So be aware that postage affix is the only option in here that specifically relates to orders. We also have our user-defined fields. In here, you can create up to 30 different custom fields to appear within the estimate screen. These fields can be adjusted by clicking the Edit button on the right, opening up the row for creation. Upon giving the user-defined field label a label name that is not the field name, the UDF will become active. You can also determine what type of UDF you're looking at, be it referencing a date, such as having a calendar pop out, have it being a text or number-based field, or if you need to be a time field, referencing a clock option, which can be selected. Additionally, you can provide an input mask. What this input mask does is it provides either a default choice or a list of available options, almost simulating a drop-down menu. The list options can be entered in as you see here, with an open caret and closed caret defining a list of options as existing, and pipe separators being used to differentiate your choices that are available. Do be aware that if you put in an input mask such as this and you utilize the available options generator, that you only can select the options that are listed here, and that the first option is what you'll see when filling out a new estimate, meaning that if you click save on an estimate without adjusting this, your first choice is what will be committed. There is also the field size. This is a limiter that allows you to define how much text is allowed to be entered into a specific container. And finally, the copy and export checkboxes. When checked, the copy button will allow an estimate to copy data forward into a new estimate upon creation. And the export button will allow you to convert the data from an estimate into an order, automatically creating a new order UDF with the same label name as what you see here. Finally, within our global settings, we'll see a few controllers that are available for estimates, some of which can be found under the company settings, those of which are the display total services and tax on estimate and orders, as well as the display CPM on estimates and orders, or cost per thousand. This simply changes what you're able to see on the main estimate screen. Additionally, within here, you'll have the options to create a new company. Any companies in here can have a licensee info block populated with a phone number, address, and email. All of this is posted into any estimate reports, such as the estimate details or estimate price. Additionally, the provided report logo for the company is what will be used on the letterhead header of the estimate report in which you open. Also within here, you'll see the estimate/orders tab. The auto update CRM info on copy checkbox, when checked, allows you to update or change a customer record. And then when copying an old estimate that was created before the customer record update, that customer's new information will be carried forth into the estimate. If this box is unchecked, then when you copy an old estimate, your new estimate becomes exactly as is, possibly still referencing the customer's old information, which may or not be correct. Also in here, you'll see that there is the only services associated with customer pricing can be selected on estimate or order, and also with contract pricing. When these boxes are checked, it makes it so that if a customer has specific pricing built into their system, be it as a contract level or simply on the customer level, only those services can be seen, and none of the other services that exist within the administration menu can be selected. Do note that if you plan to use contract pricing, you need to have this box checked before this checkbox will actually do anything. Lastly, within here, we have the Reports submenu. Reports in Midnight can be sent out with attached PDFs containing info on the document that's to be sent, such as an estimate report or inventory balance. Midnight does not store the actual emails that are sent out. It does store a tracker that says an email has been dispatched. Because Midnight doesn't store outgoing emails, we suggest that you create a default BCC account in here. This default BCC should be referencing one of your personal email addresses, such as a midnight@yourcompanyname.com. email account created on your Exchange server or whatever other email server you use. Additionally, the default email signature that you see here is a global email signature and it is not employee-based. So do make sure that if you plan on emailing out of midnight, you account for this signature being the signature that's attached to any outgoing emails. As far as estimates go, they can be accessed in one of two ways. You can either click the Estimates module here, or you can click the Customer Service and then Estimates module button. The Estimate Search screen brings up a list of all of your, by default, open only estimates. Do note that open simply means that the status has not been updated by hand or has not been converted to an order. If you need to look for estimates that were converted to jobs successfully, you'll need to change this status from open to all or to 1. You can change up your method of search and sort, much like how we could in the administration menu, by clicking the column header names, or by filling in text within one of these fields here at the top. Do note that there are filter options on the Estimates module search options. If you click the small funnel icon, this opens up a list of choices in which you can define whether or not your search does a check on whether or not your text begins with what you see as provided on the estimate screen, whether or not it simply contains matching text, and various other options. You can quickly clear out these choices by clicking the Clear button here on the right. And if you need to revert your sort back to its default sort, you can click the Reset Filters button to set everything back to the way it was. If you need to search a little bit more deeply, you can do so by clicking the Extended Search option here. This generates a small active window, which gives you the options to choice in a few bits of text, either text resulting or related around EDFs, up to 3 in total, or to fill in a couple of date fields, customer code, or quantity range options. Once you make your search options here in the extended search pop-out, you will need to click Submit to add these search elements to the search elements you would have posted down here below to create the most consolidated and accurate search that you need. If you need to get into an estimate, there are a couple of ways to do this. You can either click the blue text for a pre-existing estimate, or if you open up your recently visited pop-out, you'll see the 10 most recently accessed estimates on your account. By this, I mean to say that if you create an estimate and have it reference, if you create an employee's account and have that employee reference specific estimates, if they access their account from a different location, such as at home, at a client site, at a Starbucks nearby, they'll be able to see their recently visited populated with their 10 most active, regardless of what machine they're on. Finally, to create a new estimate, there are two ways to do this. You can either click the green New Estimate button here at the top, or if you are in your Home menu, under the Quick Links dropdown, you do have an Add Estimate button available. Whichever option you choose to do will bring you to an estimate screen in which you have your general information to begin filling out. Now, an alternative way to create a new estimate, of course, would be to copy an old one. If you were to go into an estimate that's pre-existing and click the Copy button, a new estimate will be created utilizing a new sequentially generated number, and you'll be brought straight into it with an account warning message popping up if a customer has one, before finally being able to update, modify, change, or organize the data that you see. If you do plan on using template estimates, that is an estimate built with a series of line items or services pre-populated, we do suggest that if you do so, you create this with a customer titled template. Because we don't have the ability in Midnight to simply define an estimate as a quote-unquote template job, if you simply create a customer that's called template, they'll be very easy to find. Now, there are other things that we can do with estimates, such as convert them to orders. Those can be done by clicking the green Export to Order button here, or in the case of a multiple quantity estimate, clicking the Export button for the quantity in which the client has agreed to purchase. Doing either will create a new order, and much like the estimate copy process, bring you straight into that new order. The difference between copy and export in these cases is that the status of the estimate will be converted from open to 1. And this will change how some of our reports, as well as the primary estimate search screen, display this estimate when needed. Do be aware that many of the fields that you see here, the fields that you see down below under the Details tab, underneath the Order Number option, are the user-defined fields. And the fields that you see above or equal to, parallel with the order number, are all standard fields that you'll see within the Details tab. The other tabs, in this case, Marketing, Data, Prep, etc., these are all your service types, and this is where your services would exist for generalized selection. As you fill in your services, the price will be pulled from either the admin standard service menu, the customer's specific pricing if one's built for the particular customer account, or the contract if a contract has been assigned to an estimate. Additionally, you can view details of the pricing by clicking the Details button of the line item. And you can see a simple breakdown of both the prices and the tax info for the item in question. One thing to note in estimates that is different from orders is that you do have the ability to apply a discount to a specific department or service type. In this case, you can do so by clicking and adding in a discount here, and then clicking the Apply Discount to apply the price change to all of your services within this tab. Do note that you can use a negative value here and use this Apply Discount button to actually simulate a markup. Additionally, we have the Postage tab, in which you can fill out your basic information on postage data, such as your geographical location, your postage category, a generalized postage affix, which will be a record that pulls from the affix list, postage status, and above all, the postage rates, which can be utilized to determine the estimated calculation of postage on the job. There is the Attachments tab, which references the admin menu's document types list, in which you can add up to 20 megabyte files to your estimate. And finally, a relatively new feature is a display menu in which you can add proofs to your estimate. Utilizing this feature allows you to send out emails to your customer with inclusion of files, so that way you can be sure to convey and acquire approval from your customer before converting an estimate to an order. When making an update to your estimate, whether or not you create it new or whether you copy it, the Update Quantity button allows you to quickly change the information for a lot of your services. In this case, when you change the update quantity to a new balance and click the Update button, you will be given the option to recalculate prices. In this case, if you click Yes, you will have all of the line item prices revert themselves to their original values as listed in the administration menu or on the customer's basic price. Or if you click No, the prices that are currently on screen will be maintained and only the quantity here will be updated. Lastly, I briefly covered this already, the multi-quantity tab. In here, you can create up to 5 new quantity instances with which to quote your customer based on what they may or may not wish to order. The contents of these can be edited to a degree by clicking the Edit button for that individual quantity instance, allowing you to modify the actual quantity, price, or tax information of any of your specific line items that have been updated during this process. Do note that you can delete services from here, but you cannot add new ones. So if you need to set up a multi-quantity instance that may or may not accompany a specific service, that you can remove it, in this case, assuming you've already added it into the main estimate screen. Now, in this case, you can also do an update pricing option. In here, after supplying buttons with values of a new price instance, when you click the update pricing button, what this does is it recalculates everything to reflect the new quantities that were entered in any screen, be it the details tabs, expected quantity, or the individual quantities that are listed by your own hand. And lastly, under here, as you update your information, you'll of course need to be able to view it. We do have many of the estimate reports listed in our reports dropdown. And these estimate reports will display your estimate-based information in a variety of ways depending on what you're looking for. For instance, the estimate details will list all of your line items with no base or nickel and dime pricing, and then ultimately give you a subtotal at the end. Our estimate price is the same thing, however, it does list the line item totals. And we also have 2 multi-quantity reports, our multi-quantity and multi-quantity detail, as well as a multi-quantity multi-page report, these of which will display information based on the multiple quantities that were quoted, giving you a base sum of information, including the services total, which matches the pricing screen that we see here, as well as accommodating for the inclusion of tax and postage. Our multi-page report is pretty much the same thing, only with a full page built for each quantity. And the final place to find estimate reports, or at least reports that pertain to estimates, can be found in the Reports module. In here, under our sales reports, we can view a little bit of generalized info regarding estimate data. We can see a status and close ratio of our estimates to give us a better understanding of how our estimate operations are proceeding. as well as utilize an open estimates report to better view info as far as how your sales reps are accommodating for their own estimates. This also gives you the grand totals of the sales on each particular estimate, giving you a sneak peek to the potential of upcoming income. A couple of final modifications that you can make to an estimate. When you're within an order, you can back create an estimate or export backwards an order into an estimate by going into the Details tab of the order and converting it to an estimate by clicking the blue Estimate Export button. Doing this will bring you straight into the new estimate, and it will let you do what you need to do. And last but not least, the red delete button here in the upper right will remove your estimate from midnight. Do be aware that if you decide to delete an estimate, it cannot be recovered. Orders can be recovered upon deletion, but estimates cannot. That covers everything for our estimates-based training. If you have any questions, I will be happy to oblige.